Hi YouTube, I'm back. I was planning to do one a week, but well, I get very tired because I've got chronic fatigue, so I have a very small window in my day when I can actually do something. And also, cause I'm writing every day anyway in my journal, so that takes time. And then typing up a journal entry for the video, that takes time as well. So, and this one's this is the diary entry from the 15th of June 2017. That was Friday, so it's Sunday today. So yeah, that was a couple of days ago. Nobody wrote any comments, but I got 40 views, so I'm assuming somebody enjoyed it, so I'm going to carry on doing it for a while anyway, at least. Okay, so the 15th of June, and this is Friday. Okay, it was Vicky this morning. She came a few minutes after 10, half 10, so I let her in. Apparently I was down on her rota for 20 past 10. So if you watched the last video, you'll know I'm having carers come. And they're supposed to come at certain times, but they never do. And this is my morning call, and they usually turn up, well, this morning, 11 o'clock, and yesterday actually. So that's nearer lunchtime really. And I'm quite bad in the mornings with my fatigue, so my morning call is probably the most important call, because if I don't get it, then yeah, I don't get up till about lunchtime. Because if someone comes and gets me up, then if I can make myself get out of bed and start doing things, then yeah, I can start to feel a bit better. So anyway, I've decided if they don't come at half 10, because they've got half an hour to get here either side of the time they're supposed to come. If they don't get here by half 10, then I'm not going to let them in, because last time that worked and they started coming at the time, well, nearer to the time they're supposed to come. So I've started doing that again. Okay, Vicky, she's a new carer who's she hasn't been often, about maybe 3 or 4 times. She's quite nice, but yeah, she's still one of them. Okay. There's a song I've been listening to a lot lately called Kissing by a group called Bliss. It's my favourite song at the moment. A couple of days ago I was listening to it and this thought popped into my head that if you fancied someone, it would be a fun way of telling them by playing this song. At the time I didn't think this thought was anything significant, and I didn't question if it was my thought or if it had been put there by someone. Anyway, after Vicky had cooked breakfast for me and put it on the table, I decided to put some music on. It makes me relax and I don't feel so much pressure to speak in order to fill silence. So I put on this song. Vicky came into the lounge to write at the folder, and when she came in she kind of paused and went, "Oh." Being autistic, I'm used to people saying or doing things which seem a bit odd to me. I could tell it was a negative reaction, but not knowing what it was a reaction to, I ignored it. We chatted a bit as she wrote in my folder, and then she got up to leave. As she was opening the door, I saw a cardigan on the back of one of my dining chairs. Actually, thinking about it now, this has happened several times with other carers. I'm sure they can't all be so forgetful. It's probably one of those things they do to tell me, "See, there's nothing wrong with you. We're all like this." This has been a long-running theme since I was diagnosed. People trying to tell me, "Hey, you're not really autistic. You're just a bit too quiet and introverted. We can help you be normal. Just let us tell you what to do." Of course I'm paraphrasing, but I have actually had people say something very similar to me. I spoke to a social worker once who tried to tell me this. She was suggesting that I'd just read about autism and decided that was me, and that all these things I was telling her about myself were just things I got out of a book. I had to get the psychologist's report on me and show it to her, to convince her I wasn't making this stuff up. Anyway, I picked up the cardigan and gave it to Vicky. She thanked me and gave me a long spiel about having left it at another client's house for several weeks and only found it when she went back, not even realising she'd left it there. Actually, a very similar story to what one of the other carers told me. They don't seem to have much imagination, these people. Then she said something really strange. I guess it's not meant to be. Then it suddenly clicked, her strange reaction when she walked into the lounge. My persecutors had told her I had a crush on her, and that I would play this song to her to let her know. Well, undoubtedly she was going to hear me play this song at some point, as I play it a lot. I played it when other carers had been here too. I think that thought about playing this song to someone I liked was probably planted to confuse me, or to make me think maybe I did have some unconscious feelings for this lady. In the past, I've actually had carers, women, try and come on to me, and they too seemed to think I fancied them. So it was quite interesting that with Vicky, they were telling her things in order that she would keep a distance from me. Usually they try and force me together with people, and these people I feel I have no connection to whatsoever, and in some cases a strong aversion to. These people can be quite overbearing in their attention. When I'm around these people, there is a lot of acting on my behalf in order to get along with them. When you meet someone you are compatible with, you can be yourself. I think that's partly why I had so much problem socialising when I was younger, apart from being on the spectrum. The majority of people around me I'm not compatible with, and I think I was probably born outside my soul group or family. With Vicky, although I haven't heard her express any interest in the subjects that interest me, she's a Taurus, an earth sign, and I usually get on with other earth signs. Also, she's smart. You can tell just from the way she speaks, and she is quick to catch on. I know what I'm saying to her is actually going in, and not just falling out the other side. For most people, it seems, the effort of thinking is too much bother, and they're quite happy to let others do it for them. So we have these two things in common, and I find I'm not having to act so much around her. In a normal situation, we might be friends, and I think this is probably why the perps want to keep her at a distance from me, by telling her that I fancy her. Friendships provide support, and genuine friendships lead us to being ourselves rather than creating personas and forgetting who we really are. I got a strange response to my video when I posted it in the Facebook group I joined, Targeted Individuals. It was by a woman, but it could also have been a perp hacking into her account. Anyway, she or he said, "This is a futuristic date. Why?" The title of my video contains the date the 9th of June 2017. I replied I didn't know what she meant, and that this was just the date of my journal entry. I asked her what was futuristic about it, but didn't get a reply. So for some reason, the perps are suggesting I chose this date, the 9th of June, because I think it will be significant in the future. I pondered on this. What could the perps be saying to people about this date? Later, I was watching a video of an interview with David Icke, during which he said, "I haven't even started yet. The most important part of my life is yet to happen." What Icke said sparked an aha moment. People often tell me I have great potential, that I could be really successful in life if I just came out of my shell, reached out to people, and let them guide me. Then I would fulfil my potential and finally be doing what I came here to do. This is a narrative, a story that the perps tell about me all the time. These perps seem to be divided into two camps. There is one group that is openly hostile, and their activities are kept hidden from the public. They attract the dark souls, people who have no qualms, maiming, torturing or killing a person. These people know their job is to shut me up, discredit me, do harm to me. Then there is the other camp, the supposed good guys, who don't just pose as good citizens, but as spiritual teachers. These people are the public face, a front for the controllers, those who are organising and directing the harassment. I think they do most of the spreading of the gossip about me. They pretend they are friendly towards me, that they want to help me even. I'm not sure how they explain where their information comes from. Maybe they claim it's word of mouth. which I don't think would be believable as I don't speak to people except the carers. But there you go, most people don't reason these things. Or maybe the ones who claim to be spiritual say the information comes through them psychically. Actually, most of this information comes from their surveillance of me, and a lot of the time they are able to make predictions about my future because it is they who are doing these things to me. How hard is it to predict someone who's going to be ill next week when you're holding the weapon that is going to make them sick? Also, they have the use of electronic telepathy and mind reading. These aren't psychic abilities they have, but a technology that has been given to them to harass people with. Well, these are just my guesses, what I've deducted from my experiences. One of the favourite lines then that they like to repeat over and over is that I'm not doing what I came here to do. My life's purpose remains unfulfilled. The reason they love repeating this so much is because it boosts their ego. Because they believe it, and they believe it is they who have prevented me from fulfilling my purpose. By turning my family against me, isolating me from potential friends and any kind of moral support. It is they who have made me sick, who torture me with directed energy weapons. It is they who chased me from town to town, who have robbed me of money and a source of income, who control what other people think of me. It is they that robbed me of these opportunities to achieve the success they say I'm capable of. Every time they tell people I'm not fulfilling my destiny, they are showing to those other dark souls, the other camp, how powerful they think they are. As an example, I did a pencil portrait of my grandmother's friend. This is going back 15, maybe 20 years. He was very proud of it, and it had pride of place in his apartment. One thing he was always saying to me was, "When are you going to become famous, so I can sell my portrait for a fortune?" What could I say to that? That he would have believed. Because in a way, I already was, just people always pretend not to know me. Another variation on this theme is when they tell people I'm about to do something. That I'm finally going to take the bull by the horns and fulfil my destiny by performing some amazing feat. Then of course I don't, because it wasn't an actual prediction, it was just them making up stuff. In this way they're setting me up to fail, to be a loser in other people's eyes. This is almost as satisfying for them as actually destroying something real someone is attempting to achieve. Because for these crazy people, destroying an imaginary goal they have created for someone still creates the impression of power in those people who don't realise the whole thing was just an invention. This is what I was reminded of when I heard Ike say, "The most important part of my life is yet to happen." So when I think about the comment left on my YouTube posting, probably by a perp, I wonder, are they doing the same thing again? Telling people there is some great achievement I have planned sometime in the future? Are they setting me up for failure again? Or do they really know something I don't? How can people think or believe, those who are aware that is of what gang stalking is, that someone who is in a government programme that is intended to thwart, neutralise, joke, hinder, sometimes even to eliminate a person, murder them, how can they think that such a person could somehow create a decent life for herself? Has anyone ever been able to defeat these arseholes? Do people think I have some superhuman powers? A couple of years ago I applied for asylum in Russia, but I got no response, although I followed it up a few times. If someone does want to help me, they can write to Putin and ask why my pleas for asylum were ignored. It seems the only people Putin gives Russian passports to are film stars, pop stars and celebrities. So if you're a targeted individual, your chances of asylum are zilch. One of the things the perps say about me to people, another thing, is that I'm too reticent. I'm not forward enough, that I don't understand that relationships are about give and take, and I expect others to come to me. The perps who are masquerading as goodies use this to keep people away from me. The logic being that I have to be trained to go to them, that until I literally force my way into someone's front room, that I have not learnt the valuable lesson of forthrightness and determination, boldness and confidence. And so, in order to coax me out of my shell, I have to be ignored, like a naughty child. I don't know whether people believe this bullshit or if it's just a good enough excuse to be horrible to someone. But really, if someone ignores your text messages, doesn't reply to you on social media, are you really going to go round to their house and demand they have a cup of tea and a chat with you? Can you see the real intention here? Does it not remind you of the type of abusive relationship where the woman keeps going back to her abuser, no matter how many times she is humiliated, put down, insulted or hurt physically and emotionally? Well, this is the same silly game my family play with me. I can go to them, and they may ordain me with their presence, but they won't come to me. I am beneath them, not worthy of them. So it's a catch-22 situation. They tell me I'm wasting my life, that I could do so much more. I should reach out to people, trust people, go out, make friends, socialise. Well, from my long experience of this phenomena, the only people who are allowed to get close to you are perps. Everyone else stays away. And this is true on social media too, because they've all been brainwashed by perps. I've also seen this sort of thing going on in the spiritual community, so I'm pretty sure perps have infiltrated the spiritual community and set themselves up as spiritual teachers from where they can spread discord and strife and drama, all the things that New Agers would say they've risen above. Strangely enough, if I do have some larger purpose than my own spiritual awakening, then it is the perps who are fulfilling that purpose for me, by talking about me so much. Some of this has to be true, else people wouldn't believe the lies. So much of my spiritual journey and awakening gets to be witnessed by people who probably aren't that way inclined at all, which can only be a good thing. And to all those people who tell me I'm not fulfilling my life purpose, I would say, well, why don't you help me fulfill it, and stop ignoring me when I do reach out on social media or anywhere else? Give me a platform, stop talking me down. And when other people talk about me, use your discernment. Ask what this person's motives might be, and question everything. Okay. So that was the 15th of June. That was Friday. So that was quite a long entry actually, because yeah, I wanted to comment on my last video as well as what actually happened on that day, which was the Friday. Okay. Hi YouTube, I'm back. If I looked a bit pale in my last video, it was because I couldn't find my makeup. I found it. This is my journal entry from the 10th of April 2014, which is a Thursday, so it's the day after the entry for April 2014 that was in my last video. Okay, I took 4 tramadol the night before. I had a migraine, and when I woke up I felt okay, not tired and whacked out like I have been lately. So I took a couple before I went to bed last night to see if a smaller dose would work the same, but it didn't. I only get prescribed enough for 2 a day. I asked Julie, Dad's girlfriend, if she could let me have any of hers. She has built up a small hoard of it. She's afraid the doctors might recall it or stop prescribing it, like she said they did diazepam. Actually, I'm not sure they have stopped prescribing diazepam. I think the doctor told her that to get her off it, but she said no, she wouldn't let me have the tramadol. So I will ask my sister Liz if I can have any of hers. She has these unexplained chest pains, and the doctors have said it's stress. This is a footnote from now about this journal entry. I didn't realise back then that I had been diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I put my symptoms down to some form of electronic harassment, but I didn't realise what they were doing was creating a disorder in me that, if I'd known what it was, I would have been able to do something about it. If not alleviate my symptoms entirely, at least improve them. This makes me wonder how many other people who suffer from these strange modern disorders are actually suffering from electronic harassment. I thought for a long time that my family are also being covertly targeted, and maybe that explains why we're all taking the same medications. My dad has had two secretaries who have cheated his company out of money. I don't think this is a coincidence. I've noticed before that the controllers, as I like to call them, will also covertly attack those that they use to harass others. I think this gives them some kind of weird, perverted pleasure, attacking people who are working for them and who think they have won their friendship and respect. Of course, these people have no such honourable feelings. Everyone, even those closest to them, are potential targets. Don't think you can protect yourself by doing what they want. The more you submit, the less respect they have for you. So this is back to the journal entry. I made a few discoveries this morning. I've been thinking about the source of these horrible dark feelings that seem to just descend on me. I'm quite sure this is being done by the controllers. I can't actually find what the feelings are linked to, or what triggers them. It just seems to happen randomly. It's not a constant state either, and I can sense the real me still there somewhere when it comes on. This is another footnote. My doctor in Devon prescribed me citalopram, but it wasn't doing much if anything. Coincidentally or not, my other sister Claire is also on citalopram. Back to the journal. I have got quite good at watching my thoughts and noticing thoughts that aren't mine. Sometimes, though, images will also appear in my mind's eye. I also sometimes reach out in my mind for images, usually if I want to practice using psychic abilities. Sometimes I'm not directing my mind at any particular source or being, which is probably not a good thing to do, as you could be inviting anything to come in. Unconsciously, I think I'm trying to speak to some greater consciousness. Anyway, it occurred to me today that these images that come into my mind might not always be from a benevolent source, and just as the controllers have telepathic technologies that put thoughts into your head, they can probably put images in your mind also. I think you would have to watch them quite closely to decipher which images these are. If they pop into your mind out of nowhere, this is probably a clue. Also, what type of image it is. If it's meant to scare you or influence you in some way, this is probably another clue. And also what the image looks like. Is it cartoony? Photographic? Does it look different to how you normally picture things in your mind? I've also been pondering on if it's possible to stop these dark feelings using the power of my mind, or of the power of love. I've read in different places in books about spirituality that depression and other mental health issues come about because people are too much in their heads and not in their hearts. So I spent the day trying to be heart-centred and tried not to take any tramadol. For some reason the tramadol not only eases my fatigue, it also helps with these dark feelings. I think it must block whatever it is they are targeting me with. And this is a footnote. When my GP referred me to the mental health team in 2015, I asked them if tramadol worked as an antidepressant, and I was told it didn't, which now makes me more sure it was working because it was blocking something. Back to the journal. In the end, I took 2 tramadol in the evening. I lay down for an hour and then I felt normal again, so I did some posting on Facebook. 2 car bombs have gone off in Damascus. Russia has asked other countries to stop supplying weapons to terrorist groups in Syria. There are over 1,000 European jihadists in Syria. They have their own brigades because they don't speak Arabic well enough to understand the Eastern jihadis. And the mainstream media still calls these terrorists rebels and casts them as the goodies. They tell people black is white and white is black, and the people believe them. Read a few pages of Heal Yourself by Anne Jones before bed. It was talking about fear, and how fear is the root of anger. This can be fear of anything. Fear of not being loved, fear of not meeting someone's high standards, and so on. I don't think I have a particular problem with anger. My mother was a very angry person. Mostly she used it as a weapon to intimidate us. She liked to be in charge, but she was a very domineering woman, and she couldn't understand why people didn't like to be bossed around. The ego assumes that whatever it desires, the world is there to fulfil that desire, and even other people are there to fulfil their desires. Bizarrely, the ego doesn't see other people as individuals in their own right, only it has the right to an individual free will in its eyes. The ultimate fear, which is probably at the root of all dysfunctional behaviour, is the fear of not being loved, and if you think others won't love you, then power and control over others is probably deemed the next best thing by these people. We only fear not being loved because at some point we have experienced that. Before this experience on earth, we were probably innocent and believed we would always be loved, because that in fact is our natural state. The experience of not being loved is a great shock to us and causes us great pain, which can then cause all manner of extreme reactions. That fear has to be overcome to enable us to open our hearts again. We can do that by learning about spiritual matters and understanding that we are always loved by God, the angels, our spirit guides, by Mother Earth, and we can still experience that love by developing our connection to Spirit. When we experience that original, unloving act of rejection, we assume in that moment that there must be something wrong with us, and this is how all people, how every conscious thing will react to us. And when someone shows us love, there is still that fear within us that they might not really, or that this will change if we do something wrong. It is those who do not love us that are behaving badly, or unconsciously if you prefer. It is something wrong with them, not with us. I think this is why we meditate, to feel that love the divinity has for us, to get out of our heads and into our hearts. Only by silencing our thoughts can we feel this love. My mother had the belief that love was for wimps, that it was a crutch. Coincidentally, this is what some people also consider a belief in God to be, a crutch. Western culture worships the individual, and therefore strength and stamina and determination have all become highly valued traits. And as this is what society values, this is what we come to value in ourselves. Okay. I think kindness is also seen as a weakness in the same way as love, because the belief is it will leave you open to being taken advantage of. Okay, that's it. So, yeah, please leave a comment if you watch the video, so I know what you think of it. And I'll see you next time.